Hi everyone, welcome to today's video where I'm sharing some cozy comfort food recipes. My first recipe is for creamy turmeric oats with spiced caramelized bananas and nuts. For this, I make my porridge first by bringing 3 cups of water to a boil, and once it's boiling I add in a good pinch of salt. Then I take 1 cup of porridge oats and I add in around a quarter at a time, stirring in between. I find this just helps prevent the oats from clumping together, but also this method makes the oats as creamy as possible. Once all the oats were in, I lowered the heat, covered the pan, and then just let them gently simmer for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, most of the liquid should have evaporated, so I then added in a quarter of a teaspoon of turmeric, a little pinch of black pepper, which may seem strange in porridge, but this helps to enhance the curcumin absorption, which is the active ingredient found in turmeric, known for its health benefits. I also then poured in a cup of oat milk and continued stirring until it became thicker and creamier, and then left it on a very low heat just to stay warm. For the spiced caramelized banana and nuts, I first added some macadamia nuts and almonds into a frying pan and gently toasted them off. I then took some coconut oil, added it into the pan and melted it down. Then I just cut up a banana into some chunky slices. I placed the banana slices in the pan, and then I added in a quarter of a teaspoon each of allspice, ground ginger, ground cinnamon, and a pinch of nutmeg. I then just turned the banana slices through everything to coat them in the spices, and once they'd started to toast, I then poured in around a tablespoon of maple syrup and just let them caramelize in that. Lastly, I added some vanilla coconut yogurt to the oats. They're on the warm side at this point, and this just makes them that little extra creamier and the texture more like overnight oats. I top the porridge with the caramelized banana and nuts, and then I do my usual, which is mixing a little almond butter with the same amount of maple syrup together in a bowl. It creates the most amazing caramel-like sauce, and I just drizzle that over the top of the bowl for a little more sweetness, as well as some more cinnamon just dusted over the top. It's a pretty indulgent breakfast, but if you are fancying something more on the sweet side, this is so good. The spiced caramelized bananas and nuts on a bed of cozy, creamy turmeric oats is the best combination. The turmeric doesn't give the porridge any flavour as such, but it gives it some warmth, and I like adding turmeric to as many things as I possibly can because it has some amazing healing properties. The spiced caramelized banana and nuts is the most incredible topping. It's sweet from the banana and the maple syrup and warm from the spices, and then there's the crunch of the toasted nuts. It's just all so delicious and cozy. The next recipe is for my Thai-inspired rainbow carrot and coriander soup with ginger chili, coconut and lime. For this, I warmed a good few tablespoons of oil in a pan. I then roughly chopped a white onion and added that into the oil. I next took 3 cloves of garlic and again roughly sliced those, then added them into the pan with the onion. I then just sweat the onion and garlic down until soft before grating in a good thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger. I then also added in half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of ground coriander, and half a teaspoon of chili flakes. If you don't want to use chili flakes, add in a teaspoon of paprika instead. I then took a kaffir lime leaf and just crumbled that in. I find this just adds a little zesty, citrusy flavour. And then I just turned that through the spices to toast them off for a few minutes. I next took a huge bunch of carrots. These were fresh from my lockdown vegetable bed and needed using up. These are rainbow carrots, so they come in different colours and I find they have so much more flavour, but regular carrots work for this too. I used 8 in total, including these little ones, a couple of those made for one medium-sized carrot. I gave them a good scrub. I literally had just dug these up. The tops don't go to waste, my rabbits love eating those, so I trimmed them and then just roughly chopped them up and added them into the pan as well. I just allowed the carrots to soften down slightly by cooking them for around 10 minutes. I next added in a pint of vegetable stock, half a can of full fat coconut milk, a good pinch of sea salt and a crack of black pepper. I then just stirred to combine everything, increased the heat to bring it up to a gentle boil and then reduced it back down to simmer, and I left that to cook for around 20 minutes. After 20 minutes I removed it from the heat and I just used a ladle to transfer the soup into my Vitamix. Once it was all in, I took a good handful of fresh coriander, including the stalks since these have so much flavour, and I added that into the blender. I blended that up for a good couple of minutes until it was really smooth and creamy. I find when using rainbow carrots it can come out different colours each time. It can either be yellow, orange or a deep orange brown colour, but either way it tastes the same. I poured it back into the empty pan to reheat it through. Always taste and season more if needed, so I added in some more salt and pepper. I also squeezed in the juice of half a lime, which really adds so much freshness. I also love to keep whole fresh chilies in the freezer, and then I grate them in at the end for an extra kick of heat. I then also chopped up some more fresh coriander and added that in too. I gave it one last good stir through and then I love to serve it with a drizzle of soya cream over the top, some more grated frozen chili as well as some dried chili flakes, I like it hot, some more fresh chopped coriander and some pumpkin seeds for a bit of a crunch. I love adding lots of things on top of my soup for even more flavours and textures. Coolness from the soya cream, a kick of heat from the chili, fragrant freshness from the coriander, and as I mentioned, a crunch from the pumpkin seeds. As with any soup, this is amazing with some garlic bread. I love rye bread spread with some vegan garlic butter to have alongside it, and the soup itself is beautiful. It's warming, it's cozy, it's full of flavour. This is something I actually threw together recently when trying it to use up some carrots, and it came out so nicely. Carrot and coriander soup is one of my favourites as it is, but with the addition of the ginger, chili, coconut and lime, this just takes it to the next level. And the final recipe is for a mushroom and jackfruit ragu with cheesy polenta. I first heated a few tablespoons of oil in a large shallow pan. I next took 100 grams of shiitake mushrooms and sliced them up. I added those to the pan and then I took 100 grams of oyster mushrooms, roughly sliced them up and added those to the pan as well. Any kind of mix of mushrooms will work as long as you have around 200 grams in total. I fried the mushrooms off until they became golden in colour. It takes time on a medium-high heat and just constantly turn them over. Also a tip, never wash your mushrooms. Wipe them with a damp cloth if needs be, but when they soak up any water from being washed, they will lose the amazing texture that you get from cooking them this way and they will have very little taste. Next, I roughly and finely chopped up 3 shallots. I added those to the pan and then thinly sliced 3 cloves of garlic and added those in too. I chopped up a stick of celery next and added that to the pan. Then I took another carrot again from my garden, finely cubed that and added it to the pan as well. I sweated everything in the pan down until the onion, celery and carrots had softened. I next drained a can of jackfruit, and then I squeezed out any excess water through a clean tea towel so that it soaks up as much flavour as possible. Then I added that into the pan along with a bay leaf, 3 sprigs of fresh thyme, though you could use a teaspoon of dried thyme and a teaspoon of rosemary, and then I just stirred those through the pan. I next added in 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and kept that turning before adding in a tablespoon of vegan Worcester sauce, salt and pepper. I then poured in 1/3 of a cup of vegan red wine and just let that cook before adding in 1 can of whole peeled plum tomatoes. I find these so much more bold in flavour, and then I always add some water into the can to rinse it out into the pan to not waste any of that amazing juice. I gave that a good stir through and I broke up the tomato so eventually it became a really thick sauce. And then I poured in a pint of vegetable stock, brought it to a gentle simmer, and then covered it and left it on a low to medium heat for 1 hour. To have with it, I made some cheesy polenta, and for this I do 5 parts liquid to 1 part polenta. So I poured 3 cups of vegetable stock into a pan, along with 2 cups of oat milk and a pinch of salt. I like the oat milk for creaminess, but 5 cups of stock works fine too. I brought that to a boil, and then I took my cup of polenta and I just gradually added some of that into the pan, whisking the whole time. I desperately need a silicone whisk for my pans, but I was very careful here. Once I'd slowly added all of the polenta in, I kept whisking until it thickened, and after around 5 minutes, I placed on the lid and left it, but every 5 minutes or so I just gave it another whisk until it was too thick, and then I just switched over to a wooden spoon and continued to stir it. After about half an hour, I added in about a tablespoon of vegan butter, then a handful of vegan cheese. This is optional, but I love the Applewood vegan cheese, so I added that in for even more of a cheesy flavour. But nutritional yeast works great on its own too. I also added in 1/3 of a cup of nutritional yeast and then gave it all a good stir together. After an hour, I removed the lid on the ragu. If there's a lot of liquid left, you can just keep it cooking uncovered to reduce the sauce down, if you like it thicker like I do. Once it had thickened up, I just placed some of the cheesy polenta on a plate first. I added on some of the mushroom and jackfruit ragu, and then I took some fresh parsley and just chopped that up to scatter over the top. This is the ultimate comfort food for me. Meaty mushrooms and melt in the mouth jackfruit in a rich gravy almost, with flavours of rosemary, thyme and red wine, with the creamy cheesy soft polenta. It's like a big hug in a bowl. So good, and you could have this ragu with lots of things: on a jacket potato, on mashed potato, with some pasta, but for me this is how I like it best. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the recipes. You can find them written in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!